This is Bizz Beyond the Suit.
Here we are again in Bizz land, and I've got Mike Sellers with me. I'm so excited, Mike Sellers. We've been talking about this for months, haven't we?
We have, yes.
Coming and doing this
we have.
Chat. So Mike is the port director at Portsmouth International Port, and he joined there in 2017, having spent the previous 20 years at good old ABP in the north and northeast of England. And you have chaired the British Ports Association from 2023 to 2025. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you, Kate. And it's good to be here finally.
Yay! We've done it. We've done it. Perseverance has paid off, hasn't it? So I wondered if we could start, Mike. I just wanted to talk about the major success, really, of Portsmouth Port. It's one of the UK's most successful local authority-owned ports and contributes substantially to the UK economy. You had your recent economic development report, and I wondered whether we could pull out some of the bits and bobs from there and start there.
Yeah, sure. So we, as you say, we actually we did an economic impact report 7 years ago now, 2019, and we did it at the time because we were coming out of the referendum. A lot of our business was with Europe, and there were discussions going on with UK government around Brexit and how that could potentially impact on the ports. And Portsmouth at the time, despite the fact that we were the second largest cross-channel port, and we were a release valve for some of the pressures that you would see at Dover and the Channel Tunnel, we weren't recognised at that time in terms of the relevance and the importance that we were as a major port. So did that back in 2019, and a lot's changed since then. We've had a pandemic, we've had Brexit, we've had the whole geopolitical everything that's kind of going on in the world in terms of trade and the impact on trade. And the timing was right because it's our 50th anniversary, the International Port's 50th anniversary. So we revised the economic impact, and as the start of the 50th anniversary, we launched the impact report at Westminster in January. And the results of that are very, very good. Bearing in mind, all of the challenges that we've had. Certainly with regards to cross-channel trade, we've seen 25% reduction in freight since Brexit. We've seen a modal shift in some of the fruit that was coming into the port that has gone to containerized, and the bigger deep sea container ports like Southampton and London Gateway. But you mentioned that success is part of the business plan and the strategy for the port at the time. Back in 2019 was to diversify and look at other opportunities and things that we could do at the port. Not just be that port that is the cross-channel port and the banana port, which is what it was pretty well known for. And we've developed cruise business quite significantly, and we've really found a niche around the small to medium-sized boutique cruising. So we do, up to just close of 100 turnarounds a year now. 100 cruise calls a year. 50 of those are turnarounds, which is where the passengers will embark and disembark. And then the other half of those are what we call transit calls, which is the tourist calls.
That's right. Cruise.
Yeah. And also we started to look at utilising the deeper water berths that we've got for conventional cargoes, that's your lift on, lift off cargoes, rather than just be the banana port. And, we do a lot of general cargo now. And the results of that kind of came into the economic impact study that we released this year. So, the contribution, based on the activities in 2024, contribution to the UK economy was 400 million. We support 5,500 100,000 jobs. There's 10.8 million of cruise visitor spend in the city for those tourists, those transit calls, and 7.5 billion in trade that comes through the ports. And interestingly, 2/3 of that trade is export. So, it's there's still you've got the export, international export that goes through Southampton. You have that with Europe going through Portsmouth as well.
We're still making enough stuff then to export.
So surprisingly, 2/3 of that is export, and that links in very well with the free port and the Solent free port itself. So the results of that are really good and strong, and would have gone backwards had it not been for the investments and the support that we've had from Portsmouth City Council for things like cruise and general cargo.
And it's substantial, really, that what you're bringing to the city. It's about 10 million, isn't it, that goes into the council coffers as a result of the port. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. So, you mentioned we're a municipal port. There's 3 types of ports in the UK. There's private. 80% of the UK ports are private. There's trust port, and there's municipal ports. We're a municipal port, so we're not a company. We're a service of Portsmouth City Council. But we still function the same as any other port. We still have the same governance. The only difference is our profits go into the council's budget, and they get spent on essential services. This financial year that's just ended, that was 10.7 million that went into the overall council's budget. So we're a crucial part of Portsmouth City Council.
The economy as well, isn't it? It is fascinating, isn't it? And you joined the port in 2017, and you've been at the helm, as you mentioned, through some interesting times for all of us, really, with Brexit and the lockdowns and all of that sort of stuff that's been going on. And I know when we've spoken in the past, Mike, you've talked about the £23 million building that's there. Talk me through that. When you look through your window and you see that there, share your pain.
So I mean, one of the kind of results of the referendum and Brexit and the changes to trade was that ports that handled food products, and we have a significant amount of food that comes through Portsmouth. Of that 0.6 billion in value that goes to the supermarkets. When we left Europe, we had to have checks at the ports, at the border, for those food checks. So it's all biosecurity, make sure that the stuff that's going to go to the supermarkets, whether it's meat products, whether it's fruit and veg, that there's no issues around the source and the type of food that's coming into the UK. So we had to build them. Not just us. There's a lot of ports that did this, but because we were cross-channel, because we had every type of food products that was coming in, we were one of the largest, what we call border control posts. So we built this border control post that took up 2 acres of our operational land. And at the time it was for something called the border operating model. So it was something that the UK government were introducing that was going to be built on a percentage of checks of freight that was coming in on a daily basis. And we were advised by DEFRA to build something of that kind of scale that had to be passed by DEFRA. We put the designs forward, it got passed, we built it. We were about 2 months away from the operation of that in 2023. And that was the time when everybody was really starting to feel a pinch around the cost of living, the high inflation. And the government at the time decided to pause the border operating model so that wasn't going to impact on the supermarkets and the cost of the supermarkets. So that was stopped. But rather than pausing it and then restarting it later, the government decided to review their border checks and moved away from percentage of checks to targeting any potential high-risk products. Because our links are with Europe and with France and Spain, there's not that many high risk products that come through
sausages.
Portsmouth. No. So we went from a facility that was supposed to carry out something like 80 trailers a day, checking 80 trailers a day, to an average of 2 trailers a day. So very little of that has been used. Then we've had a change of government. We've got a new government, not new anymore, but when the new government came in, or the latest government came in, they then decided to look at closer ties with Europe and a reset, a UK-EU reset. That means that our infrastructure we've built, our border control post, will not be needed by the end of next year.
Yeah. And what can you do? Can you dismantle? Can it be dismantled?
Well, I mean, you mentioned we're part of the British Ports Association. That's our trade body. Our trade body's lobbying government to support the fact that all this money has been spent. The cost of that was 23 million. We got a 70 million pound grant from the government, which meant 6 million of council funds had to be put into this infrastructure. So you've got the kind of debt for the infrastructure. Then we either have to repurpose that building or demolish that building to bring it back to an operational area, and that's going to cost 2 million plus. So we are together with our trade body, the British Ports Association, are lobbying the government to ask for support, financial support, for those changes that are going to happen as a result of this UK-EU reset.
Yeah. But either way, that's on your books, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, and the building could be repurposed. The problem is, externally, it looks like any other normal warehouse. Yeah. Internally, it's highly bespoke.
Is it?
It's built for. There's laboratories inside it. It's built for checking the food products and storing those if there's contaminated goods. There's multiple freezers and refrigerators. All of that would have to be ripped out and completely changed if we used it as a normal warehouse, or it gets demolished. And that's the kind of thing we're starting to look at in terms of these border changes and what we need to do with that building.
Yeah.
All of which costs money, of course.
No, I know. It's very tricky, isn't it? And it must literally there in your eyesight the whole time, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll move on to something more positive now.
Thank you.
So you spent much of your working life in maritime and in working in ports. Was it your ambition as a child? How do you come to be working in ports?
So I actually came into ports through the traditional route. So my family worked in the ports industry. My dad was a registered dock worker, shipping clerk in Hull. My granddad worked in the docks. My uncle was a straddle carrier for the container terminal in Hull. So I kind of did the traditional route, I guess, as a docker's son coming into the ports industry. And it was after the ports were privatised. There was a lot of independent stevedoring companies that loaded, discharged the ships back then. And, they were using ex-registered dock workers, but, they started to look at the succession planning and needed to bring the docker's sons in. And that was kind of the route in. And I must admit, when I first did it, it was more about getting enough money to go out on a Friday night and a Saturday night and maybe even, eventually save up for a deposit for a house. It wasn't, I never saw it as a career initially, but when you get into ports and maritime, it's just a fantastic life. It's just, it's hard to describe it, but, it is another world. And, I never want to work in anything other than maritime now. And career-wise, there's opportunities for any sort of career in maritime, everything from project engineering, port directors, CEOs, marketing, stevedore and forklift drivers, reach stacker drivers, lots of different activities. So it's an industry that I've been in all my life, and I can't really see myself ever going from it.
No. And what about your mum? What did your mum do? Is she?
My mum.
Did your mum work as well?
Yeah, I mean, she was. I think she was more a supporting stay at home mum.
Yeah.
And she worked part time, but most of the time it was looking after myself and my two other siblings and helping us to get used to life, I guess, grow up for life. But she was very, very supportive, my mum. My dad's been great as well, just in terms of helping with the career. Although my dad, interesting, my dad was he was the shop steward for the Transport General Workers Union. He was the regional branch secretary. Mm-hmm. So we'd have been having interesting conversations at this point.
Yeah, yes. But does that help you to sort of see the other side in a dispute?
Oh, I think what is really grounding, and I would always, even if you come into the Port's career at a graduate level, spend time with the troops, spend time understanding the activity and kind of working through all of the different Port's activities just helps in terms of having those conversations with when you get to the level that I'm at, and the conversations with the people that are working for you, that you've been there and you've done it, you understand it, and it certainly helps with that.
So, Mike, we've touched on the importance of crews to Portsmouth, and I think the last time we saw each other was at the Ambassador Cruise event, which was amazing, wasn't it? Great for the city. And recently, your team have been at Sea Trade, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Having those conversations, but perhaps bringing some more new lines to the city. Is there anything that you can say about those sort of secret negotiations that have been going on?
So the guys that have gone out to Sea Trade, for your listeners, Sea Trade is in Miami, so they get quite a nice location to go and sell.
Very hard though.
What we do.
I was hearing how hard they work.
Oh, they always tell me that. Yeah, when they get back. But they, whilst they've been out there, it really has changed for us since we joined Cruise Britain. We started at a very, very sort of small, short, low level in terms of cruise. We're still fairly new to this. And the first time the guys went out was 2019, the year before the pandemic, to talk about our plans, our investment. And it was a real struggle to get any traction with any cruise liners to understand even where Portsmouth was. And you think about the history of Portsmouth and the maritime history. So we had some challenges initially. To the latest this year, going out to Sea Trade, where a lot of those brands were coming to see Portsmouth. They knew about Portsmouth. They knew about our reputation. They know how good we are in terms of the service level we provide for that boutique cruising, for those higher end liner services. We've demonstrated that with a lot of those brands so far. You mentioned Ambassador is the latest one. Yes, we are, and we have had and picked up other brands. And watch this space, because I can't say who they are at this stage, but we will be announcing that.
It takes a long, even from that initial conversation, it can take years.
Yeah. It's at least 2 years before you start to get commitments with those brands, because they build their itineraries 2 years. It's a holiday, so they build it 2 years in advance, and they can't just suddenly switch and start to use you. So you still got to work on the reputation and the customer service with the brands that are starting to use you. They all talk. We also do our bit around business development, and then when you start to get those commitments, it's 2 years in advance. And some of them, you saw that with Ambassador, with the event at Spinnaker Tower. They want to announce it. They want to make a big deal of it. Yeah. So you have to wait for them to be able to talk through the brands and what we've got. But we've got multiple brands now that are using us. Next year, our initial target when we pulled the business plan together was to exceed 100 cruise calls. Next year we will exceed 100 cruise calls. So we've reached our initial target. We'll get to 150 in the next few years. I've no doubt with the traction that we're starting to get, the reputation we're starting to get, that we'll get to that point in the next few years.
Amazing. Yeah, it is a real success story, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I guess sort of running alongside that, you've got all your sort of green plans for the port as well. And again, it's an exemplar, isn't it, with all your solar panels. In fact, from the Spinnaker Tower, where the ambassador event was, we could look down on the solar panels in Gun Wharf, couldn't we? But
Yes.
I mean, equally, all your buildings are covered in them, aren't they? Now?
Yeah. We we've been we actually finally got a strategy pulled together, an environment, social governance strategy, ESG strategy, approved by Portsmouth City Council this year. But to be honest, that is just formalising what we've been doing for the last few years, and we've done a great deal of what I always call the low-hanging fruit in terms of sustainability, like solar. All of our flat roofs, we've got solar canopies now in the car lanes for the ferries. All of that is full. There's times when we're off grid for the landside activity, when you get a day like today when the sun's shining. And all of our fleet of trucks are electric. We've done a great deal on the land side. Our buildings, the new cruise terminal that we have is a fully sustainable terminal. We use seawater to heat it, to cool it, to flush the toilets. We've got solar, battery, storage. We've even got living walls inside the building to help purify the air as well. So it's a really impressive, sustainable building. The next big thing for us, which is now at the final stages, is providing shoreside electricity to the ships. We started that journey back in 2021, and we finally secured grid capacity, because these ships, the power that they take when they come alongside, just to keep their hotel loads, keep the everything working on board rather than running their engines, take the power that you need for a small town. And we can't take that from an island city like Portsmouth. So we had to get it from the grid. We managed to secure the power back in 2023. And about 4 weeks ago, we finally got the energy from SSEN, from the grid, the substation next to the port that they put in place, energised. So we're just waiting for our meter to be fitted, and then we can start plugging in the ship. So we're a matter of weeks away from being able to plug in up to 3 ships at the same time, 2 ferries and a cruise ship.
Amazing. That's amazing. And I guess the ferries are already capable of plugging in, are they? Or are they moving to that?
Yeah, they're a bit of both, really. So Brittany Ferries, the main reason we started to move towards this wasn't necessarily because of cruise. It was because of our core business, which remains the ferry traffic. Brittany Ferries, French-owned, made a commitment back in 2017 to renew their fleet, and they ordered 2 new hybrid ferries that started their operation last year, 2025. And when I say hybrid, I mean a bit like a car in a way. It's got a mixture of battery technology, and it also uses fuel for when it's out at sea as well. The battery technology, they'll switch to battery before they come in and leave Portsmouth Harbour. So the transit through and out of Portsmouth Harbour will be fully electric. And then when they're alongside, they need to recharge those batteries, but at the same time, they can also run their hotel loads off electric power as well. And they introduced those two new ferries last year, and we've got the capability next few weeks to be able to plug in and recharge those ships, so that in and out of the harbour will be zero emissions, fully electric. Alongside that, obviously, as we've been developing cruise, we can provide plug-in now for cruise ships when they're alongside. It's not for the transit in and out the harbour, but when they're alongside, they can they can switch off their engines. Which is, for a quite a condensed island city like Portsmouth is a huge benefit in terms of air quality.
Yeah, which is always an issue, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is there not an issue now with actually the ships wanting to plug in? Isn't it cheaper for them to use their?
Well, it's never straightforward, unfortunately.
It's timing
the ships,
again, isn't it?
So if you'd have asked me this question a few weeks ago, there is a big issue with the cost of electricity compared to the cost of fuel, or there was a few weeks ago. There's a war on at the moment with Iran, and fuel prices have gone up quite considerably. So that is starting to make electric a little bit more appealing than it was quite a few weeks ago. The Department for Transport are also introducing something called ETS, which is the Emissions Trading Scheme, which, for want of a better word, is a carbon tax. So it penalises the most polluting ships in terms of the level of CO2 that they produce. So it's in their interest to plug in when they're alongside as well. So it's an interesting situation because of what's going on, in the Middle East and the cost of fuel. If you'd have asked me this question a few weeks ago, I would have told you, we are millions apart in terms of the cost of electricity to run those ships to fuel. Now that gap is getting a little bit closer. It might change again, but there are things that are happening like separating the fluctuations in gas prices to electricity prices that will help in terms of the pass-through charge that we charge for electricity to the ships. So I'm pretty confident that we will get those ships plugging in.
The direction of flow looks positive, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's positive, but ironically not because of what's going on in the world.
Yes. Honestly, it's so challenging, isn't it? And the repercussions out from that. I don't think anybody realised, did they? At the outset?
No, yeah.
Yeah, it is a challenge.
Challenge. Yeah. So I think within the next few weeks, you'll start to see the ferries and the cruise ships plugging in at Portsmouth.
Yeah. And is LNG still a thing then? Are the cruise ships utilising that?
Yeah. LNG as an alternative fuel, it's not carbon friendly, but it's certainly emissions friendly. So there's certainly a big reduction in the maritime pollution that you get around cities because of LNG. The hybrid ships that Brittany use are LNG electric. So when they're out at sea, they're using the LNG as well. Brittany, for example, they hedged when they look at fuel, so they did it quite a few months in advance. So they haven't felt the issue yet around the cost of LNG and the cost of fuel. It just depends on how long things are going to go on in the Middle East and what that impact is going to be. But yeah, from an air quality perspective, LNG is much better for the city. Cruise ships are moving towards LNG as well. It's seen as a transition fuel. I don't think it's seen as the ultimate solution to renewable fuels and decarbonisation, but it's certainly seen as an improvement, a step forward, and a transition fuel before the technology catches up in terms of the type of fuel that's going to be used for those longer journeys. Electric's great, but it'll only do short journeys. It's that if you're doing longer journeys, it's going to be something like hydrogen or ammonia, but the technology is not there yet.
Yeah. And it's those sort of issues that I guess keep the whole area of that interesting for you, isn't it? To see how that's going to play out and how it's going to develop over time. So when you look to the future, Mike, are you looking there with is it a positive view out there at the moment? It seems like there are a few issues, but it seems pretty positive. We certainly expect that that trajectory for cruise to continue. We've got mentioned earlier. There's a few lines that are now looking at using Portsmouth in the short to medium term that will see that number increase. I think ferry traffic will continue at the sort of level that we see.
although, again, it's a little bit uncertain this year with everything that's happening with the controls at the airports with EES, which is biometric scanning. It's making ferry travel a little bit more appealing. So, we might see some increases in terms of passenger travel as well. And the general cargo, the development that's happening across at the general cargo terminal run by Portico Shipping, that development will finish in September this year. That will create a significant amount of open storage for other types of general cargo. So, the future is still looking bright. I always class us as what we call a short sea port. Something, we deal with the near continent. We don't go too far afield. It's with Europe. 92% of our trade is with Europe. The challenges that we will always have is space. We've got the Navy at one side, we've got the motorway behind us. There's only little pockets of land that we could possibly develop into. So we're looking at smarter ways in which we can work, using technology to create what we call a smart port that will, move away some of the non-operational aspects of what we do outside of the port, maybe even, somewhere along the M27 where we can have pre-gate checks and all those kind of things before anything freight-wise would come into the port, and then open up as much of the existing port land for operational space,
So we're back to that blooming building again, aren't we, Mike?
Yeah, we are,
Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Kate.
It's been a delight. Thank you.
Thank you.